Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. The time is 4:21 p.m. on the 25th of July 2025. It's Friday, so Shabbat Shalom to those of you of the Jewish faith or culture or, proclivities. And happy weekend to everyone else. So I've had a wonderful day. I was really kind of worried how today was going to pan out because it was forecast to be only 17 degrees today, and I thought that was going to be quite chilly and miserable, but the sun came out and there wasn't a breath of wind, and it's just been quite a pleasant day. And I got a lot done. I cleaned all the bird cages and cleaned the fish pond filter out front, which I normally do the fish pond on a Thursday, so I was a little bit delayed, but anyway, it doesn't matter in the broad scheme of things. And so I did that, and what was the other thing I did? Listened to lots of podcasts about UFOs, and which is one of my favourite subjects, anything paranormal, interesting, alternative or magical, I love. So while I was cleaning, I was listening to that. And the birdie boys, Kermie and Bo, can you see Bo? Won't go back in his cage, little sneak. He probably will when it gets darker, or I'll have to catch him manually. But anyway, I had them outside in their outside cages. And I've decided, once I pay off the other two new cages, I'm going to buy a slightly bigger cage for outside for little Bo, because he sits there like this in his little budgie cage that he came with, and no, I'm not happy about it. My little Bo, even though he's a bitey little bastard and not all that fond of me, are you, Bo? I'm going to get him not as big as the one I've got for inside, but there's the one the next size up for outside. Means more cleaning and more work, but I had to clean his little budgie cage anyway, which can you see it? No. Anyway, I had to clean that after him being out in it all afternoon, because poopykins happen and drop food happens, and so anyway, it's been a bit of a day, but it's all, I feel accomplished and happy and contented because the house is clean. I still have to do all the dusting, but I've dusted bits and pieces as I've gone, and the house feels clean and fresh, and there's a wonderful energy around my home and garden at the moment. It's peaceful and sort of soothing and comforting, and like I don't know, like the gods are smiling upon me for a change, which might be just my imagination, you understand, knowing the life path I've had, but it just feels good. It feels like, just feels like life's going to blossom for me yet again, or perhaps for real this time, or at long last, or whatever little psychedelic dream I can manifest in my imaginings. But no, honestly, it's been, even my friend Lynn commented, she rang me yesterday, she said, "You're the most content I ever remember you being in many years, and for once you're not dealing with any ugly drama or chaos or other people's ugliness." And she said, "And you seem so calm." And then this morning I woke up to a message from one of my YouTube, I don't know if she's a subscriber or just an audience member, but she left me a lovely message saying that my voice is calming. So that's nice. Other people are picking up on my hard won on the gravel face of trauma and difficulties and fraught life experiences. They're picking up on my calm. And it's not to say that I'm always calm. I can be a bit of a wreck. you know, it's not hard to tip me over the edge, people of Earth. But yes, the last few weeks have indeed been quite lovely and calm and productive. I just want to show you quickly. It's a silly little thing, but I'm so happy about it. Can you see the sheen on my desk? How it's all super shiny and lovely. That's the result of mixing, because I saw it on some site when I was searching for a good wax for jewellery benches. They said use what they use on in chemical laboratories on their desks. And it's just candle wax melted with turpentine, except I didn't add quite enough turpentine, so the wax ended up being a little bit too thick and difficult to apply and rub in. But by the gods, it did a wonderful job. Like, this desk feels shiny and solid, and that was yesterday's labour. So I do need to kind of sand it down though, because there's little scorch marks and there's borax fading and I'm such a perfectionist. Didn't I say yesterday that I was happy with it, but that I need to sand it back in the warmer months? Today I decided I'm not completely happy with it. It's going to grind my gears until I take this desk out and sand it back and get it exactly how I want it. And then the desktop is only about, because I've had to sand it back a few times, it's only just over an inch thick. So then I'm thinking I might buy a slab of wood, you know, like you buy slabs in these places that sell slabs of timber, and make the next bench top from a slab of, I don't know, they recommend you use maple. I don't know where we'd get maple wood in Australia, but maple must be quite a tough wood or something. This must be why they recommend it. And this is only a cheap pine desk, you know. But I made do with it. I made it work for me. I'm very proud of myself. Very proud of myself indeed. And even screwed the decorative backing on left over from my mother's hutch. And although that you don't really see it because of all my, you know, tools and little cabinet and the lamp there. But I worked hard on this bench. So I'm very happy about it. So I think, yes, the next phase will be I'll buy a solid, thick slab of timber, probably that thick, and whack that on top of it somehow, bolt it on, or screw it down, and away we'll go again. Yes, the Mama T has decided. Once she makes her mind up about something, it can take me a couple of years to manifest things, but it's up there. It's logged in the manifestation process, and I'll make a better top for this desk. But in the meantime, I'll keep using it as it is and wear it in a bit more. And I've got to make more jewellery. I've got to buy more silver, and I've got to make more jewellery just for something to do. Costs money though, silver. Quite a bit of money now. But anyway, I've got a few things I could do. I haven't been working on them because I bought this beautiful soldering stainless steel trolley to solder on, but I can't solder in here with the birds in here. So I'm thinking probably in the warmer months I'll do what I did with my car file. Take the trolley out into the kitchen with the gas canisters, and I'll just work in the kitchen so the birds aren't exposed to fumes, at least not directly, and work that way. And I want to make a long silver chain, because my silver charm necklace, eventually the heavy charms have cut through the thin silver chain link, so I have to make a nice thick chunky heavy sterling silver chain, a long one, so I can cut all the charms off and then resolder them on the new chain necklace, charm silver chain charm necklace. I'm looking forward to doing that actually. It's fun and, you know, I have something lovely to continue on with because the other ones worn through. So I did try just soldering, you know, individual links back together, but the silver's worn too thin. It just broke apart again. So bugger that for a laugh. I'll just make a stronger chain and a thicker gauge. Yes, the Mama T has decided. Right, so why am I making this video apart from going on about my bench and my charm necklaces and my beautiful birdie boys and the beautiful day is we're going to read chapter 2 of part 4 of the Mythic Journey, and what a journey it's been. It's always a lovely journey when you travel through time and space and ancient myths. And you learn something about the gods and about human nature. It's somehow a bit comforting to the soul, I think. So here we go. I'll just take another sip of my tea. I just gone cold. Bugger that for a joke. I hate it when my tea's cold. What are we going to do, people of Earth? I will leave it. I've had quite a lot of tea today. I'll be up all night by the gods. Self-inflicted sometimes. Anyway, I'm looking forward. I'm thinking about going dancing tonight. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I've been busy all day, so I might be too tired come 11 o'clock. Anyway, we'll see how I go later in the evening, whether I go dancing or not. Anyway, let us begin reading the story. I think we need to move a little bit more into the light. Mama T's got to move in the light, birdie boys. Right, and we're still flopping a bit too far back too. Don't like that when I'm flopped too far back, people of Earth. No floppage allowed. Just saying. Right, that's better, isn't it? Just check on that little schnooks. We need to go to bed, little snooky. Bye-bye. You're being a stubborn cockatiel. You're being a renegade funk train cockatiel. He says, when it gets dark, I'll go to bed. I hope you do, you little snooks. Always a worry. He likes to stir me up, that bird. By the gods. But then Beauregard, of blessed memory, the other beau in my life, he used to like to stir the Mama T up too. What is it about the men in my life always wanting to stir me up? By the gods. Anyway, you have to laugh. It's a bit funny. It's funny if it's feathery ones. Not so funny if it's humans doing it. What are you doing, little handsome boy? Are you happy you've got a clean cage? Are you going to say thank you to the Mama T? I think he is happy. Right, today's story is about greed. Today's offerings, I mean, is about greed and ambition. Greed, whether for physical pleasure or for wealth, is a fundamental attribute of human nature, and so too is the desire to be first and best. It is naive to believe that these things can be made to go away through ideological principles or moral legislation, but we can contain our greed so that it does not injure others. Can we? I know quite a few people that couldn't contain their greed and robbed me of houses and business and cars, and fuck, it was endless. Tried to rob me of my very life too. Rotten bastards. But anyway, let's try not to dwell in that consciousness. Mama T's outlived them all. It's miraculous. Took a bit of stubborn stoicism on my part too. Anyway, blessed be, where are we now? We can harness ambition with ethics so that we make the best of our gifts while benefiting the world around us. I like people who do that, you know. There are some amazingly successful, wonderful people who are not greedy and have ethics. Like our dear Ozzy Osbourne, who on his last, few days prior to his death, gave his last concert and donated all the money from all the profits, I guess, from that to, I can't remember, some children's hospital or something. Now there you go. That's someone who puts his great wealth to good use, because can't take it with you. They probably had plenty. He just wanted one last hurrah to basically say goodbye to all his fans and go out doing what he loves best, which was performing. Right, anyway, where are we now? Unfortunately, this is not as easy as it sounds, and myth is full of examples of those driven by blind greed and eaten away by uncontrolled ambition, to the point where they not only injure others, but destroy themselves. The myths which follow deal with many different facets of greed and ambition, teaching us about the constructive and destructive expressions of these primal and powerful human needs. Arachne. Talent needs humility. Talent is something both enviable and, in its way, risky, as it carries with it certain responsibilities and challenges. We need to honour our gifts by, go to bed? Can you see him? He's swinging. You swinging on your swing, Kermie boy? What's that psycho little grey feathered pigeon doing? She says, I'm not a pigeon, Mummy. I'm a very stubborn cockatiel, and I'm going to make you catch me. Catch me if you can, Mummy. No, I'm busy, Bo. You go to bed. Go to bed. Yes, go to bed. Stop being a naughty bird and go to bed. He knows. He knows he's being naughty. Yes, tweet to you too, you little tweeter. Right, where were we? Sorry, I got distracted by the Tweety bird that won't go to bed. I call my children stubborn and recalcitrant. Wonder where they get it from. Have no idea. Right. We need to honour our gifts by expressing them in the fullest possible way. Yet we also need to remain ordinary humans, or in your case, ordinary birdies, which involves a certain humility. The Greek tale of Arachne and her overweening pride illustrates vividly that talent without humility may not always bring success. In fact, it may incur enmity and even retaliation from others. Sometimes you get that anyway. People are so petty and vulgar and jealous and uncouth. It's a real problem, people of Earth. Getting worse since the COVID regime began too, 5 years ago, with the alterations of the bioengineered kind. Just saying. I'm livid about it. Anyway, Arachne was fortunate enough to have been blessed with a rare skill in weaving. So clever was she that not only ordinary country folk flocked to see her work, but nymphs from woodland and river came to watch in amazement at how deftly she wove and what wonderful creations came from her needle. Indeed, so high rose her acclaim that it reached the ears of Athene, the goddess of such arts, to whom, many said, Arachne owed her talent. Athene taught human beings to weave, and all who possess such skill owe their gift to this goddess. Gratitude to you, Athene. I'm not an excellent weaver, but I have some small talent to which I am grateful for, the goddess, the Holy One in all manifestations of holiness. Gotta keep the Jew happy, you understand. Thou shalt not have any gods before me. I am a jealous God. It is what it is, people of earth. But you know, all the Greek and Roman and gods and goddesses across all mythologies are merely archetypes of the one. There is only oneness. I truly believe that. I'm not just being a bit sarcastic. I truly believe that. There's only oneness. It's all manifestations, expressions, archetypes, avatars at times too. Right. But the merest hint of this hurt Arachne's pride, and she tossed her head in contempt. Why can't you accept that you are gifted by a goddess? Don't see the problem. Some of my muses come to me when I'm making my silversmithing projects, and sometimes when I get really het up and stuck on something and think I can't do something and get myself, frankly, quite a bit berserk with a fear of failure, yet again, I've had extra supernatural help. On several occasions it's kicked in. One time was when I made that beautiful Hall-light pendant with the little hearts that I soldered all around it. And the other time was when I was instructed to make that model of Charlie's beak that I was sent out into the garden to actually find. And that energy, whoever that entity was, they stayed with me. I obeyed their instructions about 2 in the afternoon, and they stayed with me till about 10 o'clock at night till I completed that model. They would not leave. They were at me and at me and at me and at me. And I thought, if this is a Greek muse, they're going to kill me, because in the end I said, I'm actually exhausted. I can't wait till tomorrow to complete the task. Nope, they said, you're going to do that tonight. And so I did, by the goddess. But when I wear it out, that pendant now, ooh, the mojo with it. I've noticed it now on several occasions. What date did I complete that? I can't remember what day I completed it. But every time I wear it out, where I'm going down the local shopping centre or the supermarket, people are extra nice to me. Now, that can't be. It's probably just a coincidence. You know, it's just a random thing. Nope, every time I've worn it, it's got a lot of mojo in Māori language, mana attached to it. And whoever that energy was determined that I have that pendant and that I create it, and that I wear it in good health, and it gives me extra encouragement or fortitude or strength or willpower or confidence. I can't quite put the word on it. Mana, it just gives me extra mana. So but that's two examples. I had a fair bit of help with that cuff towards the end too. I was conscious. I thought, oh, this is never going to get done. I'm just going to fall into despair. And each time I gave up, I would get this extra kind of inspiration to continue on with it till it was done. So, yes, my angel or my guide or my ancestor that loves me or whatever energy that was very, very powerful and a bit intimidating, to be honest. When the one that came to help me do Charlie's beak was an enormously tall being. I couldn't quite see them, but I knew they were well over 6 foot, nearly 7 foot tall. And when they got annoyed with me because I was being oppositional defiant, saying I'm too tired, I don't want to do it now, I can wait till tomorrow. No, you will do it and you will do it now. I didn't dare argue with it. You're going to argue with an invisible entity you can't actually fully see and you don't know what it actually is. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't argue and that I didn't just cast the project aside, because it's beautiful and I put a lot of work into it and energy of my own energy into it, and I'm very proud of it. So whoever that was that I was seriously doubting, like any old doubting Thomas, gratitude to you. You see, when the gods and the angels work with the Tanya, it's a bit full on, even by my standards. Sometimes can be a bit frightening and confronting too. It just comes out of left field and I don't know what's going on. But anyway, there's another project that I made a few years back that I had extra encouragement to do. So, all these little things showing, they're all just little things that I do to prove to myself of my own worth and my own abilities and my own talents, and that I can achieve things if I really work hard at it and put my mind to it and don't give up. But they're actually gifted from the gods. I'm just the vessel, the artist, the creator that decides I want to do something, and then I put it into action, and somehow along the way I get this extra support and help. It's quite wonderful, isn't it? Really is quite wonderful. So I am one that would never, ever, ever be prideful and say, oh, it's all on me and it was all my own abilities, because I know more than most people the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. And, we all have our individual talents. Some of us don't know what they all are. I'm sure there's a lot of things I still haven't learnt yet about myself, even at 60 years of age. So you just have to, be open to the blossoming of the soul expression, or the DNA switching on according to the will of the gods. Boy, did they switch on my DNA. Right, where was I? But the merest hint of this hurt Arachne's pride, and she tossed her head in contempt. Athene, indeed, I owe my skill to no one but myself, and there is no one on earth or in heaven with whom I dare not compete. If Athene wishes, let her try her hand against mine. that was destined to go very, very bad, very, very quickly. You understand. Her friends trembled to hear her talk this way, and out of the crowd who had gathered as usual to watch Arachne came an old woman. "Be careful what you say, my dear. Age and experience always bring wisdom. Listen to what I say and own the power of the goddess, for she has graces to give to mortals who honour her. No human work is so good that it cannot be bettered." "Foolish old woman, when I want your advice, I'll ask for it," retorted Arachne angrily. "If Athene wants a contest, let her come." "Here I am," rang out an imperious voice. And there, where the old crone had been, stood the great Athene herself in all her splendid glory. That would be a sight to behold. Let the contest begin. Is that little Snooks gone in his cage? No, he's a stubborn little Snooks. Right. At first, Arachne was flustered, but she quickly regained her composure and boldly accepted the challenge. 2 looms were set up and the rivals began to work. Athene chose for her design the gods ranged upon the Acropolis in Athens, Zeus in all his majesty, Poseidon with his mighty trident, and herself calling forth the olive tree as the best gift to man. About the central scene were pictured foolish mortals brought to confusion, rebellious giants turned into mountains, and as a hint to her presumptuous rival, chattering girls changed into screeching birds. Around this ran a border of olive leaves. Before we continue, I'll show you the painting titled The Fable of Arachne by Diego Velázquez, 1599 to 1660. Onlookers held their breath as they watched Athene and the boastful Arachne compete at the loom. Although Arachne's work was outstanding, her mockery of the gods proved to be her undoing. Arachne chose to mock the gods in her handiwork, picking out stories in which the gods had shamed themselves. Let me just move this over a bit. Right. Zeus wooing mortal women in unworthy ways. Apollo humbly serving as a shepherd on earth. Dionysus playing his drunken pranks, all enclosed in a fine border of ivy and flowers. But these irreverent scenes were so beautifully worked with such cunning art that one could believe the animals and foliage were real enough. to touch. Her talent was undeniable, and Athene, when she rose to examine her rival's work, could not deny it. She pointed an angry finger at Arachne and said, "Spin forever, and yet be sure that your work, although delicate and beautiful, will only arouse horror and disgust in mankind, and no matter how intricate and fascinating your tapestries may be, they will only be swept away." Arachne realized to her horror that her human features, her human limbs, her human body were all shrinking away. In less than a minute, she had turned into the first spider on earth, destined to weave without appreciation forever. Well, that's not strictly true, actually, because I'm quite fond of spider webs when I come upon them, as long as it's not in the night time and they whack me in the face. But I always make a point of gently brushing, one thread aside and attach it to a bush if I can move it gently out of my way without destroying it completely. Because as a weaver, I appreciate the hard work that goes into creating those beautiful spider webs. And some of them are indeed beautiful and intricate, really amazing. The gods and Mother Nature are the greatest artists there ever were, as manifestations of the Holy One, you understand, on the subject of great art. It's not long till we get to see the sunset. Commentary. Like so many myths, this story is obvious in its meaning that overstepping the boundaries can bring misfortune. For no one is so clever, intelligent, talented or skilled as to be exempt from disaster. Pride comes before a fall, says the proverb, and the story illustrates it richly. Arachne, like many talented people, began to believe that her talent would make her, so special nothing could touch her. And indeed, her talent was special, for she did win the contest with Athene. Boasting about it, however, cost her her life, doomed forever to spin cobwebs as if mocking the skill that had evoked Athene's envy. The gods themselves are envious, and to deliberately evoke their envy would prove unwise, as Arachne found to her cost. We may see scenarios being played out in everyday life when artists of all sorts, be they painters, musicians, singers or actors, get so big for their boots that they believe no one and nothing could ever be better than them. The scenario of the great performer becoming impossible to work with springs to mind. It is not rare to hear of a talented actor or an exquisite model behaving so badly that directors or photographers will not work with them. They may indeed be skilled or beautiful, but at a certain point, their other, less attractive side may outweigh their talent. Right, just going to get up briefly and try and figure out what I'm going to do with the little boy, because he's got to go to bed. Going to bed means get inside his cage and hunker down for the night. Whereas my other, you're a good birdie, Kermie. You're a good birdie, getting ready for bed on your swing. See what a good birdie does, Bo? He's a good birdie. He's a really good bird. Yes, Mama T loves you. You're not a problem child. You went inside your cage of your own volition without giving me grief. But this little snooky little, look at the little demon thing, straight to attack me. What do you want to attack me for, you little varmint? What a mean little birdie. I'm going to have to get a towel and catch him. Just one moment. By the gods. Why can't we just have cooperation? Why can't we have good boys? Why does it always have to be little snookies being difficult? Why, Delilah? Are you going to go to bed now? No, listen. How about you go to bed? Look, here. Oh, you just want to kill me. All right. Well, sometimes it's like that, little boy. All right. We're going to have difficulties. We're going to have difficulties. Come on. Yes. Oh. He's going to give me hell. All right. Well, it's not really dark yet. It's not really dark yet. We'll give him more time. Might just cover over little Kermie. Because Kermie, if I cover you over, the other birdie Num Num might decide that it's bedtime too. Yes, bedtime. You gonna go to bed? No? Oh, honestly, it's all very stressful, isn't it? Look, see, he's bobbing up and down like he knows he's stirring me up. You know you're stirring me up. Yes, go inside your cage so you can go to bed. And then I'll put the blanket over your cage. And then you can snuggle up nice and warm. Mama's even got the heater on for you. Like, honestly, you live like a king. It's not terribly bright. I don't think he understands it really. The other one's a little bit more cleverer because he's a bigger bird and has a bigger brain. But anyway, he's a sweetie when he's not being difficult. Oh well, they probably say that about me behind my back too. She's lovely. She's so lovely when she's not being an obstreperous little bitch. But I'm not really obstreperous. I'm quite reasonable actually. Try to be reasonable anyway. Right, where were we? I think he's going to go in by himself now that he's realised Kermie's gone to sleep. That was the trick. I think I fell on the right recipe to get him to go to bed. Go to bed, little boy. Kermie's in bed. Kermie's a sleeping birdie. Kermie's a sleepy birdie. Here she is. Oh, you have to laugh. Right, the next story is titled, yeah, he's getting frantic, isn't he? Aha, aha, by Joe's, I think he's got it. Good boy, little Bo. You go to bed now. You go to bed. Oh, so the trick was to put the other one to bed and then he realises his time has come to sleep. Sleepy by birdie Num Num time. All right, excuse me one moment while I cover him over. Hello, you got there in the end. Oh, you're a clever boy. You're clever. I had to trick you a little bit. Yes, you're a clever, beautiful boy. Right, we're going to go sleepies now. You've knocked all my little dollies down. I'm going to get up on the step ladder and put them all back up. Oh, what a wonderful time you've had being a wonderful birdie. Good boy. It's better if you go of your own free will and then I don't have to chase you with a flaming towel. Because that's annoying, isn't it? Being grabbed and caught and trapped and frightened and... Oh, we'll get there in the end, people of Earth. The things I do to keep you happy and comfortable. Who keeps the mama tea happy and comfortable? I want to know. There we go. Are you happy, little snooks, now? I love you. I love you. Yes. You go to sleep now. Good night, boys. I'm going to read stories a bit longer till it gets dark and then I'll get out of your room. All right? All right. I didn't have to use the catching him with the towel after all. I'm out of breath. It's full on, man. It's full on. But anyway, now that he's worked out how to get into his own cage by his own free will, of his own, under his own steam, perhaps he might do that every time. That would be nice, wouldn't it? By the gods. Right, let us begin the next story. It's a strange looking sunset. It's a peachy, very pale apricot coloured clouds. Apricot-y, golden coloured clouds. Right. The ring of Polycrates, arrogance before the gods. The Greeks used the word hubris to describe the qualities of overweening pride and failure to recognise limits. To them, hubris inevitably incurred the wrath of the gods, but the punishment was always architected unknowingly by the individual, him or herself. The story of Polycrates illustrates neatly how hubris, combined with ordinary human greed, leads inevitably to a fall. Polycrates, the tyrant of Samos, appeared to the world to be the most fortunate of all men. He ruled a rich island which he had taken by force from his two brothers, having killed one brother and banished the other. He soon found himself the sole ruler. Hardly a day went by when he did not receive news of his fleet's victory or of a ship arriving in his harbour laden with riches and slaves. He was so rich and powerful that he wished to become lord of all Ionia. In the fullness of his triumphs, Polycrates offered himself as an ally to Amasis, the great king of Egypt, who initially welcomed his friendship. But King Amasis began to have second thoughts and soon sent Polycrates a message. A man who is always fortunate has a lot to fear. No one rises to such power as yours without making enemies, and even the gods themselves will be jealous of a man who is too successful. Good and ill by turn make the common lot of mortals. I have never heard of any so great as to have no cares, and yet who came to a happy end. Take my advice. Seek out your richest treasure and offer it as a sacrifice to the gods, so that they will not treat you in any adverse way. When Polycrates received this message, he thought about it long and hard and decided that he would follow King Amasis' advice. He selected an emerald seal ring of very great value, one of the treasures he least wanted to lose, and put out to sea in a richly appointed ship. In front of his courtiers and guards, he threw the ring into the depths of the sea, trusting it would buy him the favour of the gods. Even before he reached home, however, Polycrates began to regret the loss of his treasured gem, and for many days he reproached himself for having thrown it away so rashly. A week later, a poor fisherman brought a very large fish to the palace gates. Thinking such a gift would please the Lord of Samos. When the servants cut up the fish, they found inside its belly the very same emerald ring which had been flung into the sea, and they handed it joyfully to their master. Polycrates was delighted and took this as a sign that the gods would grant him good luck forever. He wrote joyfully to King Amasis, explaining that he had followed the king's advice and the gods had sent back his offering. To his surprise, Amasis sent back the herald renouncing the alliance, because here was one who seemed destined to draw some calamity down on his own head. Yet the tyrant, in his pride, would take no warning. Instead, he pursued his quest for power and wealth, and, flushed with success, he thought himself invincible. Reminds me of someone else we know, don't we, in American politics right now. At length, Polycrates received word from King Oroetes of Persia, who proposed an alliance and offered him a great treasure in exchange for his aid. The greedy Polycrates could not resist the opportunity and sent a servant to visit Oroetes and view the treasures he was offering. The servant was shown 8 trunks which were, in fact, filled with stones, but the top layer of each trunk was covered in gold and jewels. The servant brought Polycrates a glowing report of the wondrous treasure, and the tyrant decided to set off immediately. The oracles and omens, however, were adverse to his making the journey, and Polycrates, his daughter, dreamed that he was raised in the air, washed by Zeus, and anointed by the sun. But Polycrates took the dream to presage some great honour and exaltation. Just move this way, I think. And sailed directly to Persia, ignoring all the warnings. Once King Oroetes had him in his hands, he ordered him to be crucified at once. So the man who thought he had nothing to fear from heaven or earth was washed by the sky and anointed by the sun. The Ring of Polycrates by Giovanni Fedini. It says FL, which I don't know what that means. I'm assuming flourished. From 1565 to 99. It's not very long, is it? What's that? 34 years. Maybe they mean worked as art, as a painter in those years. Anyway, not long after Polycrates had thrown his precious ring into the sea, a poor fisherman caught an enormous fish. Thinking it would please his lordship, the fisherman brought his catch to be served to the court. Aha, here you have. A bit hard to see, but here you have the fish on this huge platter and all the courtiers running to please Polycrates. Commentary. The fate of Polycrates is self-architected and may be witnessed innumerable times in modern life. How often do businessmen and political leaders overstep the mark and incur disaster because they have failed to recognise when to stop? This problem may afflict any person who has achieved a goal and is now restless to achieve a greater one, for nothing breeds arrogance like success, unless we recognise that certain laws operate within life which will ultimately always remind us of our mortality and limits. The greatest flaw in Polycrates' nature is neither his greed nor his ambition, which are human and common enough. It is that he does not honour the gods. Honouring the gods does not necessarily mean that we must be of an orthodox religious bent to curtail the natural human inclination to push beyond our limits. But we need to have respect for life and other human beings, and to face with honesty that drive to have power over others, which can creep up unconsciously on even the most well-meaning individual. When Amasis advises Polycrates to offer the gods his greatest treasure, the Egyptian king is expressing a profound truth about the human psyche. If we identify our worth with our worldly achievements, we have given away our sense of inner identity and value. And if we can sacrifice this identification, then We are free in our souls, and if fortunate circumstances change to hardship, we still know who we are. During the great stock market crash of 1929, many people hurled themselves from tall buildings to their deaths because they could see no meaning and value in life or in themselves if their wealth was gone. This reflects a complete identification with the outer trappings of good fortune and a total lack of any deep inner sense of self-worth. Polykrates makes his offering out of fear of the gods' wrath, rather than from respect for their power. His choice is a precious ring, but the ring, a symbol we have met already in the story of Siegfried, must be given freely and with a glad heart. Otherwise, the offering is meaningless. Polykrates regrets throwing his ring away the moment he has done it. A sacrifice must be given with genuinely open hands if it is to be a real sacrifice. It is thus not surprising that the gods reject the offering and send it back in the body of a fish. And if we understand the gods psychologically, they reflect the deeper unconscious instincts and patterns underpinning individual development. In refusing to honour this deeper self within, we may indeed unconsciously architect our own downfall. The arrogance Polykrates displays is nothing short of a blind belief in his own God-like powers. Such a psychological inflation, even on the small scale of everyday life, can destroy our sensitivity to others' signals and erode our ability to judge situations correctly. If we believe we can do anything and have the right to trample over anybody, we will inevitably fail to notice that others are getting angry and are lining up to ensure that we will not achieve what we want. We will make enemies and invoke opposition in the world around us. If we alienate others sufficiently, they will begin to plot our downfall or refrain from helping us when we are about to step over the edge. And then, if we have still not learned life's lesson about hubris, we may complain to all and sundry about how badly we have been treated, but it is not likely that we will find any sympathy. Power, as they say, corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We may start out humble and wishing to do good, yet once we are intoxicated by the taste of power, we may stop listening to others, and then we begin to make serious mistakes. The story of Polycrates stands as a clear and unambiguous message to all who seek achievement in the world but have not yet learned the self-honesty and humility necessary to ensure that what has been gained will not be lost. The next story is King Midas. Right. Riches alone cannot give happiness. The well-known Greek tale of King Midas stands as the definitive mythic statement that too much of a good thing can be as bad as too little. The legendary greed of the protagonist is, however, expiated at the end, unlike many modern examples, for Midas, with a little help from the gods, manages to learn his lesson well. Midas was a pleasure-loving king of Macedonia. In his infancy, a procession of ants was observed carrying grains of wheat up the side of his cradle and placing them between the child's lips as he slept, a prodigy which the soothsayers read as an omen of the great wealth that would accrue to him. And so it happened. Midas was richer than most people, yet, like so many who have much, his heart was set on having even more. It happened one day that Midas had the opportunity to do service to a god. He found the old satyr Silenus, tutor to the god Dionysus, drunk and disorderly, in his rose garden. Instead of reprimanding the satyr, Midas looked after him kindly for 5 days and nights, richly entertained by Silenus's drunken tales. Afterwards, he returned him safely to Dionysus. The god was delighted with Midas for proving such a considerate and jovial companion to the old drunkard, and instantly offered him any reward he would like. Midas did not hesitate. "Pray grant that all I touch be turned into gold." "So be it," replied the god, laughing in a manner Midas did not quite like. The king rushed away, impatient to try out his gift. On his way back to his palace, Midas tore a twig off a tree, and lo, it turned to shining yellow gold. Gleefully he picked up pebbles, and they too turned into glittering nuggets. He fairly danced into the palace, touching pillars and posts, all of which turned to gold in a flash. He touched all the furniture and was satisfied to see the gleaming results. And here I'm just happy with a bit of candle wax and turpentine. Simple pleasures, worth their weight in gold sometimes. Just saying. Finally, the excitement and exertions of the day took their toll, and he felt hungry and tired. He called for food, and his servants brought him a basin in which to rinse his hands before eating, but the water froze to golden ice. Midas felt a twinge of worry. He remembered Dionysus's laughter and shuddered. His delight soon turned to despair as he sat down to eat, and each delicious mouthful turned to tasteless, glittering metal. Tormented by hunger and thirst, he rose from the mockery of a banquet and for once envied the poorest kitchen boy who was tucking into a satisfying meal. The king was no longer comforted by the sight of his growing treasure. The very sight of gold began to sicken him. He wept bitterly when his youngest daughter rushed up to take his hand and promptly turned into a golden statue. Darkness fell and Midas collapsed on his soft couch that at once grew hard and cold. There he tossed restless and shivering, for every blanket he touched turned into a chilly sheet of gold. He was at once the richest and the most wretched man alive. At the first light of dawn, Midas hastened to find Dionysus and earnestly begged him to take back his gift of splendid misery. Dionysus was highly entertained. So often men's dearest wishes prove unwise, smiled the god. Yet Dionysus remembered Midas's kindness to Silenus and bade him bathe in the pure waters of the river Pactolus. Driven by the gnawings of hunger and thirst, Midas ran to the river, leaving a trail of gold as he ran. He threw himself into the healing waters. As soon as his head plunged beneath the surface, the fatal gift was washed away, and to his great joy, Midas was able to eat and drink again. But the sands of the Pactolus are bright with gold to this day. King Midas, Nicholas Tournier, 1560 to 1638 or 39. Midas smiled as he sat down at his table and saw all his plates and goblets turn to gold. But as soon as the wine touched his lips, it too turned to gold, and he could not drink a single drop. Commentary. This delightful tale gives us a clear enough message. Riches are useless if the most basic needs in life cannot be satisfied. The ordinary, everyday pleasures ultimately make life sweet for rich and poor alike. If these are lacking, or if the capacity to enjoy them has been lost, then no amount of wealth can supply them. On a deeper level, Midas's deadly touch is not merely about greed and the wish to accrue more and yet more wealth. It is also a reflection of something within the man which freezes everything living and warm, and renders simple relating impossible. In this way, many people, driven by the need to accrue wealth, eventually freeze their capacity for simple human enjoyment and interchange, and the food and drink for which they hunger are not physical, but a subtler kind of nourishment, without which life is not worth living. When Midas touches his daughter, she too turns to gold. People cannot be bought, especially those to whom we turn for the most fundamental ties of affection. And this is an image of killing off a relationship through an overvaluing of money. We may glimpse the glittering traces of King Midas in those individuals who are so preoccupied with making money that they alienate their families and friends, and then wonder why they have become so lonely. This simple tale illustrates graphically how foolish human beings are to think that wealth can buy happiness. Sufficient resources can indeed keep many of life's vicissitudes from us, and those who have suffered from a lack of sufficient funds know too well how the quest for money can dominate life when it is lacking. But sufficient is not a word in Midas's vocabulary. He is not content with being a wealthy king. He wants even more. Thus, his greed poisons everything that once gave him pleasure. Dionysus is an ambitious god, happy to grant Midas a favour, yet at the same time, did I say ambitious? Ambiguous. Sorry, is an ambiguous god. Sorry. Happy to grant Midas a favour, yet at the same time amused at the tragic consequences of the king's greed. Do you want to see the sunset, people of Earth? This is a Brisbane sunset. Can you see? It's not a very grand one. It's a bit sort of peachy and light undertones of pink and gold. But it's still pretty. Still pretty indeed. This deity is lord of chaos and ecstasy, and patron of all those who seek to move beyond their earthly boundaries through drink, drugs, dance, and artistic vision. In short, Dionysus is a primal life force, unconcerned with ordinary morality, but symbolizing the flow of nature itself. He does not advise Midas. He merely lets the king get into a mess and learn from his mistakes. And in the end, it is Dionysus who releases him through advocating a bath in the pure waters of the Pactolus. When Midas's head is submerged, the curse disguised as a blessing is washed away. In other words, Midas must lose himself in the waters and give up all thoughts of control. Only then can he be free to return to his ordinary life. The only antidote to the kind of corrosive greed which afflicts Midas is a letting go of pride and desire on the most profound level. This message, expressed here in mythic form, lies at the core of all the world's great religious teachings. How many times do we hear people talking of how happy they will be when they win the lottery? They want to believe that wealth will solve all their problems. Yet we hear equally often that the winners are more miserable than ever because they have lost all their friends and can no longer trust others' love and loyalty. Riches do not automatically bring misery, but nor do they automatically bring happiness, unless the individual is capable of retaining a capacity for ordinary contentment in everyday life. Ultimately, the story of King Midas is not about the supposed evils of wealth, but about the power of greed to chill and taint everything that we experience as beautiful and worthwhile. The last story of this chapter, I think it's the last story, let me just check. Yes. Is the corruption of Andvari. Power is no substitute for love, indeed. The Norse myth of the dwarf Andvari's gold forms the basis for the first opera in Richard Wagner's great cycle, The Ring of the Nibelung. Although in his version the dwarf is called Alberich, but whether we look to the original tale or listen to Wagner's opera, here is a story of bitterness and greed. It has much to teach us about the deeper roots of destructive ambition and the corruption that warps the soul when thwarted love is transformed into a drive for power. The dwarf Andvari possessed a great hoard of gold, as well as the power to make yet more. But he did not come by this wealth without bitter cost, nor in the end could he keep it. One day, when swimming in the river to catch a fish for his dinner, Andvari spied something shining and glittering on the riverbed. It was the gold of the river nymphs, who loved the precious metal for its brightness and joy. Even more enticing to the dwarf were the nymphs themselves, who swam gracefully around him and teased him with flirtatious smiles. I lost my place, by the gods. Teased him with flirtatious smiles and compliments. But each time he sought to seize one, she wriggled nimbly out of the way, and Andvari was left breathless and frustrated. Still they teased and tempted him, and all the while, flaunting themselves before him, they also insulted him, mocking his twisted limbs and dark, ugly face. Andvari became angry, and a black hatred filled his mind and heart, and his eyes fixed once again on the glittering gold at the bottom of the river. Quickly the dwarf dived down, seized the gold, and began to swim to the surface of the water. The nymphs cried out for the return of their toy, but Andvari ignored them. They called and cajoled and promised him sensuous delights if he would return their treasure to them. But their rejection and scorn had made Andvari bitter. He knew that he was ugly and that no female would ever desire him. If he wished for love, he would have to buy it. Before we continue, The Water Nymph by Guillaume Sagnac flourished around 1900. The river nymphs tempted Andvari with their graceful beauty, but teased him by slipping through his eager fingers, leaving him feeling frustrated and foolish. I love that she's just lying, reclining over the crest of a wave. Perfect. Just perfect, little Kermie. I'll be out of your room soon, not long to go, my darlings. So not quite dark yet. I always feel guilty. I don't like to keep them up. It's not good for them. Andvari turned on the nymphs and shouted mightily so all the gods could hear. I want none of you and your delights. I abjure love. Before all the gods I swear that gold alone will I love, and the power which the gold can bring me. And with these words, which were binding, because they were heard in all the realms of heaven and earth, Andvari stole the gold and took it away to his realm. There, with many spells and incantations, he forged it into a magic ring, which gave him power over all the other dwarfs, and also the power to create endless piles of gold nuggets. Andvari would have lived thus forever, gnawed by bitterness, turning his fellow dwarfs into slaves and filling the caverns of his dark realm with growing piles of gold. But events were occurring in the realm of the sky gods, which were destined to intrude upon the dwarfs' preoccupations. Odin, king of heaven and ruler of all the upper realms, had got himself into trouble and had to buy his way out, and to do so he needed a great deal of gold. He turned to his clever and devious advisor, Loki, the fire god, who promptly advised him that the necessary quantity of gold was available in the realm of the dwarfs. All the gods knew that what Andvari had done, although none, up to that point, had seen fit to interfere with what went on in the realms below the earth. With Odin's permission, Loki hatched a plan, for he knew that Andvari was wily and that the gold would not be easy to obtain. First he travelled beneath the sea to visit the palace of the sea goddess Ran. The gods are in danger, he told Ran breathlessly. Odin himself lies bound, and only your net can save them. The sea goddess opened her cold, pale eyes very wide. She was not well versed in what went on in heaven, so she did not know whether Loki told the truth. But the fire god was persuasion itself. Lend me your drowning net, which you use to snare men. I can use it to save gods. Thus Ran parted with her net, and Loki left the hall beneath the waves quickly, in case she changed her mind. Then he headed for the realm of the dwarfs. He picked his way down a chain of dripping tunnels and through a maze of twilight chambers until he came to a massive cavern beneath the earth. Its roof was supported by columns of rock thicker than tree trunks, and its corners were still and dark. Loki saw a large and silent pool filled with water that seemed to spring from nowhere and flow nowhere. He knew that Andvari was as at home in the element of water as he was in the tunnels beneath the earth. Shabbat Shalom, people of earth. Happy Friday. And he also knew that the dwarf would sense his coming and hide. Just going to close that blind. Loki spread Ran's finely meshed net and cast it into the pool. He dragged it and pulled it up, and there, furiously lashing and writhing, was the dwarf. Loki disentangled him, keeping a firm hold all the while on the back of his neck. "What do you want?" whined Andvari, although he had a very shrewd idea of why the fire god had come. "What I want is your gold," said Loki. "Otherwise I will wring you out like a piece of washing. All your gold." Andvari shuddered. He led Loki out of the echoing chamber and down a twisting passage into his smithy. It was hot and smoky, but piles and piles of gold nuggets gleamed in the firelight. "Gather it up," said Loki, kicking one of the nuggets. Andvari scrambled about, cursing and moaning. He made a pile of nuggets and small bars of gold, of objects already made and objects half made. Loki looked at the stack and was well satisfied. "Is that all?" the fire god asked. Andvari said nothing. He stowed the gold into 2 old sacks and stood them in front of Loki. "What about that ring?" said Loki, pointing at the dwarf's closed right hand. "I saw you hide it." Andvari shook his head. "Put it in the sack," said Loki. "Let me keep it," begged Andvari. "Just this ring. Let me keep it." then I'll be able to make more gold again. But Loki, understanding immediately that the ring was magical, stepped forward and forced open Andvari's fist and seized the little twisted ring. One never knew when the heaven gods might need more gold. The ring was marvellously wrought, and Loki slipped it onto his own little finger. What is not freely given must be taken by force, he said. Nothing was freely given, said Andvari. But Loki ignored this and, shouldering the sacks, turned towards the door of the smithy. "You will regret taking my ring," yelled the dwarf. "My curse is on that ring and on that gold. It will destroy whoever owns it. No one will win joy with my wealth." I understand how he feels by that too. But Loki merely turned around again and, with Andvari's oaths and curses echoing in his ears, made his way out of the world of the dwarfs and back to the heavens, where Odin sat impatiently waiting. Commentary. The dwarf Andvari is sadly like many humans who, embittered by an early experience of rejection or disappointment in personal life, become dwarfed in soul and give themselves over entirely to power. When he cannot have love, Andvari opts for wealth and lordship over his fellows instead, yet his wealth gives him no joy, and, inevitably, it is wrenched from him by others, who equally have no ethics about how they obtain their power. This myth is a dark evocation of life in the material jungle, and it may be witnessed in the modern worlds of business, finance and politics, virtually any day in the week. It may also be witnessed in the small but equally dark manoeuvrings within families, especially when there is an inheritance open to question or a division of property following a divorce. In short, Andvari is a symbol of that within us which responds to personal disappointment with rage and bitterness, and with a consequent loss of real feeling for our fellow human beings. In the myth of Siegfried, we explored the symbolism of the gold of the river nymphs. This natural gold, lying innocent and unformed on the riverbed, is an image of those natural resources which lie sleeping within each individual and also within the collective human psyche. The gold is an image of the natural resources of our planet. Such resources may be left untapped or may be used for good or ill if they are brought up into consciousness and forged into implements of civilization or destruction. Andvari, because he feels ugly and misshapen, abjures love forever and swears he will love only gold. As a mythic image, his ugliness is a quality within, which responds to the scornful teasing of the nymphs with hatred and rage. Even if we possess such primitive dark qualities, which, after all, are really the dark side of being human, we do not need to act on them or to renounce our highest values, because we cannot make life give us just what we want when we want it. Andvari's soul is dwarfed because he does not have the generosity, tolerance, or inner confidence to ignore the nymph's teasing. He takes it bitterly because he is already bitter. Andvari teaches us that we cannot justify all human destructiveness by pointing to a hurtful or difficult early environment. There is something deeper, some quality within the individual human character which chooses to react to such early hurts with either hatred or understanding. We all face such choices, possibly many times in life, and we may shape our future through them. Because Andvari comes by his gold dishonestly, he draws no sympathy from the gods, and when the time comes for Odin to find a ready source of gold, he has no qualms about robbing Andvari, because the dwarf himself is a thief. Thus, like attracts like, and the dwarf unwittingly determines his own future by his decision to side with the darkness within. We do not need to look to some religious formula of divine rewards and punishments to understand the inner logic of this. Our actions in the world generate consequences, and ultimately we are likely to be treated as we ourselves treat others. Because Andvari has no love left in him, he is not treated with love, and as he enslaves his fellow dwarfs, so too does the fire god Loki enslave him and wrench his gold from him. Living in the world may involve learning some hard lessons, and this myth describes one of the most important. An intense craving for wealth and power is often the twisted byproduct of emotional pain and bitterness, and it can make us justify behaviour that disconnects us from any real relationship with our fellow humans. It is, in the deepest sense, a kind of pact with the devil, although the devil, as presented in this tale, is within the individual. Global examples of this are everywhere. Companies manufacturing deadly armaments to sell to known dictators, or exploiting poor populations of other countries in order to create wealth at home. We may also observe ourselves in this story in the way we treat those who work for us, in our attitudes towards money and everyday transactions, and in the manner in which we momentarily forget our ideals because someone has made us an offer we cannot refuse. Such convenient lapses often arise from a deep but unconscious core of bitterness and anger at other human beings because we do not have the happiness we think we deserve. Yet such behaviour may ultimately engender its own dark reward sooner or later. Even if Loki had not come to steal the gold, we might fruitfully contemplate what kind of life Andvari would have gone on living in his dark cavern beneath the earth, friendless and lonely, with only his gold to comfort him. The story of Andvari teaches us that it is not money which is the root of all evil. It is the manner in which we use it to vindicate, justify, or compensate for our inability to forgive. Thus concludes today's offerings, and I bid you good evening. Have a wonderful evening or afternoon or morning wherever you are in the space-time continuum here on this spiralling blue marble of a planet. And I shall be back no doubt tomorrow to read you chapter 3 of part 4 and continue on with our mythic journey. Bye for now, planet Earth. Take good care, be of good cheer. To you all.